My god, it's absolutely scandalous that I am by far the best version of Blitzwing that has ever existed and I only have one good mainline toy. Hasbro, give me a new version in Transformers Legacy.
What's happening, guys, and welcome back to another retro review. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers animated Voyager class Blitzwing, one of my favourite characters from the show and arguably one of the best from the toy line. I really like this guy, and he's a triple changing Voyager. We don't tend to get those nowadays too often, and one that I think is really cool. Now, I'd love to get your thoughts down in the comment section below. What animated figure would you guys like me to check out in the next retro review? It's the 15th anniversary of Transformers Animated this year, so we're going to be celebrating like nobody's business over here on the channel. So let me know your thoughts down below, and I will try my best to take a look. I'm hoping at pretty much all of the animated figures before the year is out, but as we get stuck here into the alternate mode of Blitzwing, I mean, not only is this a fantastic figure, but a fantastic character. Probably the best spin we've ever seen on Blitzwing, and here we have him in the jet mode. Now, I believe popular opinion is that this is the weakest out of all three, and that's just inevitable. I mean, it's a Voyager, it's a figure which I believe came out in 2008. There's always a mode which sacrifices over the other, but this one I think is still pretty decent, and I've only just realised that you can tab in the rear tank to the feet, so it just makes this thing a whole lot stable. I was checking out some older reviews and I tried to find the instructions online and I was just not having any luck at all, but there are some tiny little pegs that do peg into the soles of the feet, and it just makes this so much more solid. So as we take a look at it here from a front perspective, I mean, looks pretty accurate to how he appears on the show. I'm only a couple of episodes in, but really like the way this guy looks overall. You can see we get the Decepticon logo slap bang there in center. The plastic quality is something that you guys are going to hear me banging on about pretty much throughout all of these videos, as it is so well done. I mean, for the wings, this is so thick and durable. I really like the tiny little red details that we have scattered throughout this guy. Just all in all, really cool. I like how the back of the head actually becomes a part of the nose cone, so that's terrific engineering. And to be fair, there are not that many hollow spaces besides the kind of gappage that we have here at the top. And technically, considering these are the tank treads, you could have this thing gliding along the ground if you wanted to, zooming into battle and then potentially damaging his nose cone and taking a straight dive and blowing up and dying. Now, in terms of accessories, he does come with these translucent orange missiles, and it's just so sick to get some proper spring-loaded gimmicks on Transformers. This is something I'm hoping we can maybe see with future modern mainline figures, as these are just so enjoyable in my opinion, but completely cast in transparent plastic, so I maybe wouldn't recommend firing these at anything that is hard. You definitely don't want to damage these in any way, shape or form, but they do simply just peg here into the rear of the jet, so if you wanted to, I guess these could act as the afterburner, and from certain angles kind of look pretty impressive, giving me blast effect vibes, especially for those who collect some of the War for Cybertron figures. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Or I guess if there's a jet Autobot tailing him, he can just use these and fire them and knock them clean out of the sky. Now, in terms of a few comparisons, to hand I have here the Voyager animated Optimus, which I'm thinking may be the next review. Let me know down in the comment section below, but as you guys can see, they do pair to be pretty decent in terms of scale, and his buddy on the show is Lugnut, so of course we have to compare him alongside that figure, which I think I'm going to check out, especially considering that we are set to see a new version of this character. I know he just won one of the fan votes, so undoubtedly next year or the year after we'll probably get a legacy version of Lugnut, but these are how these two roughly pair. I believe out of scale, this thing is a massive kind of bomber plane when in comparison to this, which is a fighter jet, but I mean, they're toys, they're fun, they're enjoyable, that's all that really matters. So let's get this guy transformed up into his second mode, which is the tank, and it's quite surprising to say, it's very simple. So to kickstart things off, you're going to want to take the nose cone, and if it hasn't done so already, just swing that in there. We can then hold the head and take this section and rotate this here all the way inwards. You'll then want to come here to these fin pieces, hinge these down, and look at that, everything is pinned on, no ugly friction clips. You know, nowadays when you go to transform a Voyager, 9 times out of 10 things will just begin flying and popping off here, there and everywhere. Back in the day, they pinned pretty much everything on, so really hope we can maybe see a return to form of this sometime in the future, but just close that up. You'll then want to disengage these pieces and basically flip this here all the way up. Now, it can be a little tricky to do as these panels do kind of bump into the back of the hand, but once you just snap that in there, we can then take the turret, rotate those around so that the spring-loaded button is at the top, and do the same here for this side. Come to the underside, take the feet, and just snap those inwards too. Very sleek transformation. And then finally, we just take the wings, bring those into the center, collapse these panels down, and bang, there we have Blitzwing transformed up into his tank mode. And this thing looks like it's something straight out of Metal Slug. It's super compact, tiny, but kind of cute, and in some regards a little menacing looking. I mean, I really like the red detail we have here at the front. You can just imagine this thing rolling around in darkness, and the Autobots can just see this red piercing through, which I thought was kind of sick. But a pretty convincing tank mode, definitely a little more impressive in my opinion when in comparison to the jet mode, and you do have the treads here at the base, so this too can also roll. Very tightly compact. We do get a proper ratcheting turreting system, so this too can rotate the full 360, and we can bring back in some of those missiles and have Blitzwing firing down some of those Autobots, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, overall, a very nicely done looking figure. Now we'll take a look at a few comparisons here. So again, here we have him next to Optimus. So this is a Voyager, but it does compact pretty nicely here in tank mode. So when in comparison to jet mode, where I'd say he's roughly the same size as Prime, here he's actually a bit smaller. Would probably class as maybe a small deluxe by the animated standards. And here we have him alongside the big guy, Lugnut, in his jet mode. So definitely a very cool alt mode. I'll be sure to smack an image of how this actual tank appeared in Transformers Animated, and you guys judge for yourselves. How well do you think some of these animated toys turned out back in the day? I would love to see the third-party companies pick up these designs, as I think we could maybe be left with potential masterpiece. I mean, if they were to take this exact mold, upscale it, add a few extra joints, a bit of die cast, you're literally looking at a masterpiece version of Blitzwing in my opinion. But let's get stuck into transformation in turning him into that crazy triple kind of personality robot. So to kickstart things off, you're going to want to take these sections here, hinge those up. We can then take the treads, hinge these down, and of course these will become the knee joints for Blitzwing. We can now take the shins, pop these sections out, flip out the heel spurs. So just pull those forwards and do the same here for this side. Now, for those wondering why I did start in jet mode, that was just how this guy comes packaged. Literally all of the old animated figures used to come packaged in their vehicle modes, which I think is how Transformers should come in box. It's so cool to get them in alt mode, and then it's the fun of seeing how the figure actually looks in robot mode. But then you're going to want to detach this tank turret here, which should allow for enough clearance for us to basically split these arms, bring them forwards. We can flip out the head, rotate this section around, rotate the turret around as well. And then this is just going to snap into the back. We can now hinge the elbows down, take these wing pieces, swing those around, and just like that, there we have animated Blitzwing transformed up into his robot mode. So a very simplistic transformation just across the board for this guy. You know, nothing is too challenging, yet he looks so faithful to the show. I believe one of you guys really nicely commented on my haul video saying that the designer of the character designs from the show actually worked closely alongside Hasbro. That's why these figures look so accurate to the animation. And if that's the case, honestly, I'd believe it, because some of these figures are top tier. I was actually looking for some discrepancies between this toy and the actual design of Blitzwing when in robot mode, and to be honest with you guys, I actually couldn't find that many, especially considering that this was a figure that came out way back in 2008. They definitely had some of the best designers working on Transformers back then. I mean, all you got to do is check out the Revenge of the Fallen toy line, one of the best live action movie lines I think we've ever seen up until the studio series. That is really cool. But as we just come back here to Blitzwing, as you can see, really nicely done looking figure. Not too much kibble here on the back. I think the jet tail fins actually compressed pretty decently. Now you could technically angle these around and rotate this upwards if you wanted the cannons in a different configuration. Personally, I just think this looks cooler, and yeah, really striking looking figure, and I love the purple they've chosen for him. The paint and the plastic isn't too dissimilar, so you're left with a really cool version of the character. Now, of course, the biggest character trait about this version of Blitzwing was that he was kind of crazy. He could essentially switch from 3 distinctive personalities. So you had this one, which I believe was supposed to be his neutral German self. So here we have the scientist Blitzwing, and I like these kind of goggles that we have here at the top of the helmet. And then you were supposed to take this toggle and rotate it around. Now, at least on my copy, this is super stuck, so I just think it's easier to take the faces themselves and manually rotate them around. And there you have the Terminator. I want you guys to like and subscribe to the video, and let me know down in the comment section below what is the next animated figure you would like me to review over on the channel. But yeah, that is really cool. I mean, check out the expression and the paint apps. And in the third face, I think he's probably a fan favorite. It's the crazed Blitzwing. I mean, this looks so sick. Kind of reminds me of a pumpkin, really sinister looking. You can see that kind of burning red effect with the cracked smile. That just looks so sick. So really cool looking figure, and just across the board, very nicely painted and designed to keep your back in place Blitzwing. Now, articulation wise, he does have a swivel here at the head. We do get some nice hinge joints going forwards and backwards, as well as out to the sides. We also do get a rotation at the bicep, double jointed elbows, mainly due to transformation, as well as this really cool hand sculpt. Oh my god, I thank you all so much for checking out this part of the review. Really like the way that looks. We do get a bit of hingage here out of the wrist. Sadly, no rotation and nothing out of the waist, probably due to the way this guy transforms. Some very soft clicky joints here out of the hips. They can go forwards and back. backwards, out to the sides, nice rotation at the thigh, way past 90, only on a single hinge due to transformation at the knee, which is sick, and nothing out of the ankles, as you would expect from a figure which I think is about 15 years old at this point. So definitely quite a lot of time has passed. If you wanted to as well, you could take these effect pieces and just smack them into the back. It kind of looks like Blitzwing is having his own rock concert by ejecting these when in battle, so you can just imagine him going crazy, and then the fire shoots out of the top, which I thought was pretty cool. Or alternatively, he could literally just be walking and think to himself, I wonder what I can kill today, and then fire them into the sky and take out a few pedestrian planes. Now we're just going to power through a few robot mode comparisons, and I think the most important one to have would be comparing our old animated Voyager Blitzwing to our newest leader class version from Legacy. So as you guys can see, a massive difference in terms of scale, but I will say this one is a little more intricate in terms of engineering and is way heftier, which is quite surprising considering that there is such a big difference in terms of the size. But do you know what I'd love to see? The old plastic and scale with today's modern engineering. I mean, especially for Studio Series, can you imagine that Bumblebee based on the 2007 movie in the scale of the original 2007 toys with that plastic? It would literally be mind-blowing. So it is unfortunate that we couldn't get the best of both worlds, but I do still think by today's standards the engineering has come on leaps and bounds, and it would be so cool to see potentially a full-on masterpiece line of some of these old animated shows. I mean, can you guys imagine some masterpiece versions of animated characters or Transformers Prime characters? I would kill to get a masterpiece version of the Transformers Prime Optimus Prime. That would just be so sick, and I'm sure you guys would go crazy for it as well. Let me know down in the comment section below, what do you guys think? And I'm quite surprised that some third-party companies haven't picked up on some of these old classic designs, as I definitely think there is a lot of money to be made. Here is Blitzwing compared alongside another Voyager figure, that being Bulkhead, and I just think the scale for some of these animated figures were thrown right out of the window. I think it was all to do with their vehicle mode, so this guy was quite big in vehicle mode but then turned into quite a small, squat, probably deluxe scaled robot, but he is very hefty. It's just kind of crazy to see how different they are in terms of scale, but still very cool looking figures. Here is Blitzwing alongside the Earthrise leader slash Voyager class Optimus Prime. So again, quite a big difference in terms of scale, but engineering, I think Earthrise Prime is probably a little more involved than Blitzwing. And then finally, for some robot mode comparisons, we have Blitzwing compared alongside the animated deluxe Bumblebee, which I may or may not review. At the moment, I'm very undecided about this one. Let me know what you guys think. Should I check out Animated B? I mean, I guess I kind of have to. He's one of the main characters from the original series, but yeah, there's that comparison. So there was my retro review for the Transformers animated 2008 Voyager Blitzwing. I really hope you guys enjoyed this older look. I try and make these videos a little more fun when in comparison to the average review, just as this is more of a look back. It's me just discovering things about some of the past toy lines, and in particular for animated, I never owned any of these when I was younger. I've literally only got these into the collection, so it's quite cool for me to go back and experience what you guys were able to in 2008, 2009, and I'm thoroughly impressed. These have got to be some of the best figures I think Hasbro have ever created, and I think Blitzwing is a prime example of that. Really cool triple changer. Yeah, the jet mode don't look great, but I mean, for a Voyager and an older release, I actually think it's really cool. Like the kind of metal slug tank mode with the firing missiles. Always love firing missile gimmicks. And then we get into the robot mode, and I mean, this thing literally talks for itself. Look at it. It has no bad kibble on it. Everything about it looks exactly how it did on the animation, and you just can't take anything away from that face swapping gimmick. You can have him being the normal Blitzwing, or you can turn him into the Terminator, or you can turn him into this crazy looking fiery pumpkin, which I think is one of the scariest looking Blitzwing head sculpts we've ever seen. Again, let me know down below what Transformers animated figure would you guys like to see next over on the channel, and until my next review, I will see you then. Thank you for watching.